In business today, things are just complicated, right? We've got way more products, all these different sales channels, customers wanting everything yesterday. And all that complexity, it creates a huge problem. Your indirect costs, your overhead, they're just blowing up. And the old ways of accounting, well, they just can't keep up. They end up hiding what's really making you money and what isn't. So, how do we find out the truth? Well, let's get into it. So, let me ask you this, and it's a bit of a scary question. But which one of your products is secretly a money pit? I'm talking about those profit vampires that look great on paper but are actually draining your resources behind the scenes. The real kicker is old school accounting systems make these vampires pretty much invisible. So in this explainer, we're going to take a little journey. We'll start with the old simple way of costing and see how modern complexity just shattered it. Then we'll dive into the solution, activity-based costing, or ABC. We'll see exactly how it works, and you'll see the incredible strategic power it can give you. All right, to really get where we're going, you gotta understand where we've been. So let's rewind the clock and look at how costing used to work in a much simpler world. Think of it like a world in black and white. Companies made just a few things, but they made a ton of them, super standardized. In that world, your biggest costs were direct things, especially manual labor. And overhead, all those shared indirect costs, that was almost nothing, just a tiny sliver of the total cost. So to figure out how to split up that tiny slice of overhead, they used really simple volume-based numbers. Things like labor hours or machine hours made sense, right? If a product used 10% of the factory's machine time, it got 10% of the overhead bill. And you know what? Back then, when everything was pretty much the same, it works just fine. It was simple, logical, and close enough. But then, well, the world changed. Big time. Technology exploded, markets went global, and customers started demanding choice, variety, and customization. This was an explosion of color, and it completely broke that old black and white model. To really see what I mean, just picture two paint factories. The first one is our classic black and white factory. It just pumps out massive amounts of two colors, black and white, and sells them through one simple channel. Easy. The second one, that's the modern colored factory. It offers 200 different colors. Some sell like crazy, others are for just a few niche customers. And it's juggling multiple sales channels. Now here is the absolute key insight. Even if both of these factories sell the exact same total number of paint cans, their internal costs are from different planets. The colored factory needs way more people in purchasing to handle all the different pigments, a super complex production schedule for all those small batches, and a much fancier logistics network. All of that complexity creates a tidal wave of indirect costs. And here's where it all goes wrong. If that colored factory is still using the old volume-based costing system, it's a total disaster. All those simple, high-volume black and white paints, they get slammed with most of the overhead costs. Suddenly, your most straightforward products look super expensive and unprofitable. And those complex, pain-in-the-neck specialty colors, they look artificially cheap because they're not being blamed for all the chaos they're actually creating. It's completely backward. Making decisions based on that distorted view is a recipe for failure. But thankfully, there's a solution. There's a way to bring clarity back into this colorful, complex world. It's called activity-based costing, and it's all about a simple, powerful new way of thinking. This right here is the big aha moment for ABC. It's a total mind shift. See, traditional accounting always asks which department spent the money. ABC asks a much smarter question: which activity consumed the resources? The focus moves away from who spent it and onto why it was spent. The old way, it's kind of like a blunt instrument. You just take all the indirect costs, dump them into these big buckets called departments, and then you just smear that cost evenly across all your products based on how many you made. It's simple, yeah, but as we just saw, it can be dead wrong. But this shows the genius of ABC. Instead of big buckets, costs for things like salaries or electricity are first tied to specific activities, like setting up a machine or processing a sales order or buying raw materials. Then, and only then, are the products charged for the activities they actually use. It forges this clean, logical link between cause and effect. So you're probably thinking, okay, that sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? Well, let's walk through the roadmap for putting an ABC system into practice. It really boils down to this 8-step process. First, you figure out what you want to cost, your cost objects, like products or customers. Then you map out all the key activities in your business. After that, you connect your expenses to those activities. And then, This is the important part. You figure out the cost driver that links the activity to the product. The last few steps are really just about doing the math to calculate the rates and spread the cost accurately. That term, cost driver, is the absolute heart of this entire system. It's basically the why behind the cost. It's what makes the cost of an activity go up or down. So for an activity like setting up machines, a perfect cost driver is just the number of setups. It's common sense, right? A product that needs 10 setups should absolutely carry 10 times the setup cost of a product that only needs one. Now, you have choices here. You can pick drivers with different levels of accuracy. A simple transaction driver, like the number of setups, is easy to track. A duration driver, like how many hours were spent on each setup, gets you a more accurate number. And an intensity driver, which even accounts for whether you used an expensive senior technician or a junior one, well, that's the most precise, but also the hardest to track. The trick is to find the right balance of accuracy and effort for your business. Okay, now for one of the most powerful things ABC does, and it actually has nothing to do with your products. It's about what you're not using. See, traditional accounting is really good at hiding the cost of idle machines or empty warehouse space. It just quietly spreads that cost across everything you make. ABC doesn't let it hide. It puts a giant spotlight right on it. Okay, this right here, this is the magic of ABC. It's a total game changer. Look at that first column. Using the old method, it looks like this new product is a catastrophic failure, losing you $380,000. I mean, your first instinct is just to kill it, right? Get it off the books. But hold on. Now look at the second column, the ABC way. It tells a totally different story. The product itself is actually making you a $20,000 profit. The real problem, the huge $400,000 problem, is unused capacity. It's organizational slack. ABC makes that invisible problem visible. So the conversation completely changes. It goes from, we have to kill this product, to, wow, how do we fill this unused capacity and make even more money? See the difference? It's huge. And that brings us to the real payoff here. Activity-based costing isn't just some boring accounting exercise. It's about finally seeing the truth of your business so you can start making much, much smarter strategic decisions. So, who should be using this? Well, if your overhead is a big chunk of your total costs. If you have a real mix of products or customers that all behave very differently. And if your profit margins are already pretty tight, where every little decision matters, then you are a prime candidate for ABC. And let's be honest, in today's economy, that's pretty much everybody. When it comes down to it, having accurate cost data is like having a superpower. You can finally price your products with confidence, you can strategically weed out the losers and promote your true winners, and you can even figure out which of your customers are actually profitable to serve. Your cost system stops being a chore and starts being a competitive weapon. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. If you don't have a clear line of sight from your activities to your costs, are the numbers you're using to run your business based on fact, or are they based on fiction? Activity-based costing is the tool that lets you see the facts clearly so you can make sure the business you're building rests on a solid foundation of truth.